All right. Well, Alex Villegas, nice to be with you. You said it's your first final table.
Yeah,
World Series of Poker.
Finally made it. Been here for 5 years. Never sat down in one of these chairs.
Wow. After covering these things for all these years, because you were always usually with a pad and paper, but now you're sitting here and, well, it's almost
Still
as
got
good
the pad and paper.
and almost as good as making a final table. We're doing an interview and we're going to tell the whole world about your experiences. But before we talk about the coolest thing in the world, you come into the World Series of Poker this year. We'll get to that in a moment. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know you were born in the U.S. but lived in Costa Rica for a lot of years.
Yeah, so I was born in Connecticut, Norwich, and I lived there until I was around 7 or 8. Then I moved down to Costa Rica, lived there until I was 18, then went back to Connecticut to go to college. I went to the University of Connecticut there for mechanical engineering, actually, my first year, because I had no idea
what I wanted. Poker, of course.
Yeah, I either wanted to be a writer or I liked math. I was good at math and science. So then I got a scholarship, actually, and I got into the honors program for the School of Engineering because I put it on the application as an interest, but I really didn't like it. And so I dropped out after that first year, went back to Costa Rica, and my sister actually worked for Poker Stars as an office down there. And they were hosting, I think, the second LAPT, second season in Costa Rica. And they had this party, and I went to the opening party, and I got really drunk, and I ended up meeting this British woman, Matt Harper. She was their head of media.
Matt Harper, yes.
And she introduced me to Howard Swain's. Yes. And then, because I told them that I was a journalism student, even though I wasn't, but I always wanted to be. And then they gave me an internship at the blog. Well, a test trial, 3 days for the tournament. So I was just basically running around counting chips and doing grunt work. And that's when I got the chip bitch by Howard Swain's.
Wait a minute, let's get up there again. The chip bitch?
Yeah, the chip bitch.
Right.
Howard, yeah, he would just, I'd be running around the field, and then he'd go like, "Oi, chip bitch," and then just snap his fingers, and then it just caught on.
And he has to have the English accent too, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, so then after that, I did one more event, and I met Brad Willis too, and him and Howard.
The best.
Yeah, him and Howard were great, great inspiration. I went back to school for journalism like I originally wanted to do, and then finished that out while doing tournaments on the side. And when I was 21, I did my first World Series of Poker and on summer break from college.
Wow, that was 2000 what?
2010.
2010
was my first World Series.
You know, so basically what you're saying is, as far as a career trajectory goes, you need to go to parties, you need to get drunk.
It's always worked for me.
You never know. It's always worked.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're special. I'm not so sure that's the greatest career path. But now let's talk about, by the way, we've worked together off and on, for a number of years. And I've always loved you've always had a zest for life. And I always kind of knew that, obviously, your background. But you did something truly remarkable prior to this year's World Series of Poker that you wrote about at Poker Listings. And also, well, let's just get right to it. Why did you decide to do what you did, and tell us what you did?
I really... So it was my third major motorcycle trip. And then I first started doing it because some old guy in an RV told me. I was hitchhiking back from some event to Las Vegas.
Hitchhiking?
Yeah.
People still do that?
Yeah, apparently.
Wait a second, before we get to the motorcycle thing, you hitchhiked?
Yes.
Was it kind of dangerous?
It was just one guy who picked me up. I was actually coming back from Burning Man to Las Vegas.
Burning Man, yeah, that's a thing in northern Nevada where big fest, right? Yeah.
It's, I think, about an hour or two north of Reno. So I didn't have a ride back because that just happened.
You just go and you don't even care, like my car, a bus ticket, airplane, you don't care, you just go.
That's actually what started all of it, because I was living with a friend at the time, and then I got kicked out of that house here in Las Vegas, and I didn't know what I was going to do because I just graduated college. And so I just decided to go to Burning Man, and I was like, I'll figure everything out later. And then,
wow, what a great plan for life. I just get drunk at the party, go to Burning Man, figure it out later. I like that.
Yeah, it's solid life advice. Yeah, so then I hitchhiked back, and it was this older man. He was probably in his mid to late 60s, and he was going to Kingman, Arizona, so I was on his way. And he told me that when he had a big camper van, it was really nice. And he told me when he was younger, around my age, him and his friends would just go around on motorcycles, travel across the country, eat cans of beans over a fire, spend a little bit of money, and have a great time. So I told him, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do that. And he was like, you should. And I did it. So the first time was in 2012. I went from Vegas to California, and then all the way across, and I ended up in Washington, D.C. for election night. And
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you just obviously have a, like, I would call it a free spirit. In other words, you look at almost life and where you are and as a canvas. I mean, you're kind of creating your own reality, yes? And you go around, and again, what really is remarkable to me is not having what you call a game plan or reservations or this and that. And there's very little of that, what I call this Jack Kerouac type philosophy, just being on the road, going out, and then really when you come to a detour on the road, you're making that split decision about, okay, I'm going to go right or left, I don't know, but let's just try it. And there's a certain there's a great amount of adventure in doing something like that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a positive attitude absolutely helps too, because, and that's something I also learned from Brad too. I remember this one time.
Brad Willis.
Yeah.
Right.
He made me do this interview, and this guy refused to. And then I came back and I told Brad, and he was like, "Well, we need to have it." So there was no choice, and then I went and I did it. I found out a way. And this other time at the PCA, they were actually playing a prank on me, and they wanted me to go to this VIP area to get drinks where no one was allowed in, get some stars. But then I managed to finagle and sneak my way in there. And then I figured out that if you really, like, want something, like, if you can make things happen. Like, and I've encountered, like, a lot of situations, too. On the motorcycle trip here, too, twice I was just absolutely stuck, and then I thought I was just stuck there, and then I was going to have to wait for help. But then you'd be surprised what you could come up with, ingenuity. And then
all right, we're going to get to that. We're going to get that. Let's start with your trip now. Yeah. You're going to tell us where you started, and I know that you mentioned this, we'll get to that in a minute, some problems you had, including wrecking your bike and breaking down and in the middle of nowhere. So you're going to talk about that. So let's talk about, first of all, where you started, and, well, just give us the basics on that.
I started in Seymour, Connecticut. That's where my mother lives, and my sister.
How many miles is that from Las Vegas? As you drove it?
As the crow flies, I'm not sure, but the way I drove it was exactly, surprisingly, 4,455 miles.
Over 4,400 miles as you drove it. It's probably, 3,600, I don't know the number, but it's an extra 1,000 miles almost because you took dirt roads. You didn't take the highways and the maps. You went off the map.
Only at the end. I got off in Oklahoma, and then...
And you survived.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of red state humor, blue state humor there.
Yeah, so it was basically, I did Connecticut, New York, bit of New Jersey, bit of Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, back to Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, Vegas.
On a dirt bike,
yes.
Not on a Harley, not on a, a nice motorcycle with all the comforts. It was
nice. It's a nice little machine.
Come on, I've seen it. I've seen it. Okay.
It's a little beat up now. It's a little dirty.
So it started off looking a little better. And it's got these rough tires.
Yeah. Oh, it was pristine. I got it from this guy it was some bodybuilder gym guy in New York City. And,
you bought it from somebody in New York City?
Yeah. So that's
this is only getting better.
It only been on the street before that, and it was like immaculate. And he's like, "Yeah, no, I've never dropped it. It's never been down." And I took care of it. I was like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna fix that right up." Yeah. And luckily too, my sister, her husband, my brother-in-law, he's very big into off-roading, but with an ATV. And their house, actually, their woods behind it has like a great dirt tracks and sand pits to go riding in. So I practiced there for a few weeks because I really didn't have much experience.
Wow, you don't even have experience with the bike. So you have to practice before you make this incredible journey. I would just assume you have ridden all your life, so you even had to learn kind of
I learned in 2012 after I hitchhiked, and then when I told I was going to do it, I took an MSF course here in Vegas.
What's MSF?
Motorcycle Safety Foundation. Yeah, so I took that. It was a 4-day course, and then 2 weeks later I had the bike and I headed out.
Wow.
And then I rode through Nepal and Vietnam too, and that was my first stint in the dirt, and I crashed in Vietnam.
Are you making this up?
No,
just a minute, seriously, come on. Wow.
Yeah. So then after I crashed there, I realized I didn't know how to ride in the dirt, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna do this, and then I was like, I'll just go across the U.S. Like the timing was perfect.
Yeah, right before the series, because you want to go, you want to come out here anyway. And one of the things that you wrote, I thought, was really beautiful. And for those of us who, well, we can't do things like that, so we have to kind of vicariously live through your experience. It's something that a lot of us would like to be able to do. We don't have time, our families, our jobs. Maybe the sense of danger is a little bit too great for some of us. So now when we see somebody like you, it's almost a romantic thing that you're taking off and you're doing these really cool things. But you mentioned that you didn't want to, I think, fly across the country. Anybody can board a flight, go through TSA. That's kind of rough anyway. That's kind of adventurous. But you go down the flight, and then it's just this air travel. It's so Greyhound. It's almost like a Greyhound bus in the sky, right? You said, I'm going to get here a different way and do it my own way. And so you came out here, I think, 16 days before this year's World Series of Poker started. You began your journey. Now, I know that you went through like Arkansas, and you said you went on a road. And talk about that experience. You're running into, I think, a really special man.
I forgot his name. I think I have it written down here.
He's not going to. He doesn't have the internet. There's no internet in Arkansas.
He doesn't.
So.
He absolutely doesn't. So that was absolutely great. It was just a lot of farmland. There was tractors on the dirt road that you had to avoid. And it's called the Trans-American Trail.
Trans-American Trail.
Yeah.
You could internet that. You can probably look at that.
They have a website. You have to buy maps. Oh. And so I didn't see any references to it at all while I was driving through, except this one old guy who was sitting on his porch reading a yearbook from like 1950s or something. He was just looking through it, and he had this sign that said...
That's current, probably, you know.
Yeah. Checking up on his sons. Yeah, so he had a sign that said Trans-American Trail Stop, and I was like, oh, I'll stop here. And
it said Trans-American what?
Trans-American Trail Stop.
A stop? There's official stops on this route.
No, just him. He just likes doing it. And well, there are a few places.
He could jump you or something, couldn't he? Like, you know.
I've never really felt in danger at all. I feel like when I've been doing these trips, I think one time I slept on a picnic table at a rest stop. And in that case, people are more afraid of you because they're like, who the fuck is this guy sleeping on a picnic table at a rest stop?
So you're that guy that we kind of like look at and say, look at this, stay away. And whenever you're there, we kind of like walk around, you know. Yeah. So you're not so dangerous, Alex.
And I was wearing the same gear for all 16 days too. So I probably smelled a bit.
How many days without bathing?
I bathed whenever I stayed with a friend, or I spent 2 nights at a motel too. So different nights. So I bathed on those.
You're okay now.
I've been keeping up. It's been weird. It's been a luxury to shower and have a bed each night.
Wow. What about eating?
I would stop. Let's say usually my morning routine would be the first time I'd stop to get gas. I would do like a little freshen up in the stalls there. And,
wait a minute, like the gas station and stuff?
Yeah.
You ever been in like you have obviously a restroom and a gas station? That's pretty
I've been in
scary.
some gnarly ones. Yeah. They get pretty remote. And so yeah, I'd have breakfast there, or I'd have a lot of power bars and just food that's non-perishable, nuts, lots of nuts. I'd buy fruits during the day and then eat those throughout the day.
Right.
And then stop for lunch because I really like food. And going to the south, they have great barbecue.
Yes, great restaurants certainly on the trail. What does it get boring? You know, if we're driving across the country, and I assume a lot of people watching this understand. I've driven through. You ever driven through Kansas? I mean, Anyway, so you just get bored, and at least when you're in the car and you're driving, if you're with someone, you're talking, or you're listening to the radio or music or talk shows, or of course I watch videos now. It's just supposed to do that.
Safe.
Sorry. Well, you're in Kansas. It's straight ahead. You can just brush your teeth, whatever. But anyway, if you're traveling across the country, it's boring as hell. Now, you're on a motorcycle like this for hours and hours and hours. Did it get boring?
That's the thing. On my first trip, when I did mostly highways, that got pretty boring. But it gave me like a lot of time to think and reflect. And I love writing, and so I thought about a lot of stories. And I thought about a lot of personal things about myself, and it was very revealing. It was almost like meditating. Other times I did go kind of crazy. I remember one time I said the word aardvark 1,000 times straight. I remember because I said it 10 times per mile for 100 miles. And then I said it in different accents. I was singing it for 1 mile.
Yeah, go ahead. Aardvark, 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 aardvark.
Yeah. Okay. And then this other time, I almost crashed here in Nevada, or it was Utah, I think. I was going through a very remote part, and there was just a bunch of cows. And one time I beeped at a cow, and it looked up. and I waved at it, and I thought it was hilarious. It was the funniest thing ever at the time. So then I just kept doing it to every single cow I saw, and then I was just dying laughing, and at one point I realized that I was swerving off of the road, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to do that. And then when I saw...
Not a good idea when you're like, you know, you're doing this, and right,
yeah. But on this most recent trip, there was only a few like technical parts, and that's like pretty off-road, like tough terrain. So you're not really thinking, but you're focused the entire time. Because like, and it's fun to go a little fast too. So when you're going around dirt corners too, you skid a little bit. So and like you're always just extremely focused, and you have to keep a line and avoid any other hazards on the street. And also, there's so many deer that I'm always like watching out. So yeah, so it's actually like
animals could run across, and you
and
could
they
really
do all the time. I hit a bird with my chest. I killed a butterfly with my face too. At one point. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So yeah, at that point, I'm not really bored because I'm just extremely focused. And then there's some parts that are very narrow, and that part too is just like staring dead ahead and just staying completely focused on not falling off.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, Alex, about, and I really like something you said. I run every day, as you know, and a lot of times when I'm running, I like the word you use as meditation, because there's something about the blood flow to the brain and the energy that you have, maybe just the circulation, that you come up with, you know, I come up with a lot of writing ideas by running. I'm not sure I would come with those experiences, those thoughts, except for what I call a stimulus of energy going to the brain. And you talked about that a little bit, and you're a creative person. I'd like you to talk a little more about, you said you came up with a lot of ideas and how that quiet time, you're on a motorcycle, but it's kind of still quiet time. Describe that experience. Earplugs. So describe that meditative state that you get in riding a motorcycle. I don't think a lot of people can quite grasp that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, I think especially now more than ever, and especially like my generation, younger people, we don't really create that much because we're too busy consuming information all the time. Everyone's always on their phone, everyone's looking up something. No one takes the time to be bored nowadays. And then for me, when I'm bored, when I just think about stuff, think about my life, that's when new ideas come up. And then if I feel personally when I'm just consuming or like reading Twitter, just reading nonsensical updates on the internet all day, nothing comes out. Because I used to be like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so when it's just there, your mind goes to weird places if you just let it wander. And I feel that's where...
It goes to some weird places if you let it wander. That's a beautiful way of putting it, isn't it? No, really, because that's what it's all about. Especially as a creative person, you're trying to push the boundaries, aren't you? That's what it's all about. Say things that haven't been said before, or think new thoughts, or maybe discover new ideas. That's
and especially at a time now where it seems impossible to do because of the internet, where it feels like everything's been written, everything's been said. But that's the thing, no one's lived your life. No one's been what you've been through. So, and the thing is to find the trick there. And also, I remember, because I studied philosophy also in college, and one of my favorite professors, Joel Cooperman, genius in Eastern philosophies, and he wrote a book called Character, and in it he said the most important thing you could do as a person, and it usually happens in your 20s, is find out who you are. And I felt before that, like, I'm still trying to figure that out, and I still feel that at least I'm making some progress, and I like that, and I feel that this helps, like, being by myself, not giving like into social pressures or trying to fit in with any crowd, and just me on my own. I found out more of who I am every time I do something like this.
You create your own identity, and you've come to define yourself through your experiences and maybe some trial and error and some mistakes.
Definitely a lot of trial and
mistakes. And speaking of trial and error, mistakes and crashes, let's talk about the bike did break down a couple of times. And tell us your scariest moment, if that was it, or tell us about the breakdown.
Okay, the first crash I had was in West Virginia or Virginia. Yeah, that was I'm not sure because it was in a national forest, and I kept on swerving in between the two states.
It's funny. By the way, that's a funny thing. I didn't until you just said that. I'm sitting around, but it's important when we're driving. there's always signs. You're this far from Birmingham, and you're in this state. And there's a Exxon and a Shoney's or whatever they call those restaurants, right?
Yeah.
When you're on the road, the dirt road, you don't know what state you're in sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Right?
There's no signs.
That's kind of neat. You have no idea how your distances are or what have you, right?
A very interesting way to know when you're in a different state on dirt roads like that, or just really sub roads, is that funding changes for roads. So then you'll see like a slight difference in like the dirt color,
Really?
like it's just a specific line. That's how it was from Arkansas to Oklahoma. Yeah, it was just a dirt road, and it just like changed from one type of gravel to the
Oh,
other.
how cool is that? Right, but we'll get back to the crash in a second. What state services their dirt roads the best? What state was the coolest dirt roads? Is there such a thing? Or who was the poorest? Maybe we should ask that too. I'm going to call some people out here.
Yeah, there wasn't the northeast and the east coast is doing like fairly well. Like a lot of the roads that were marked as dirt aren't anymore. Tennessee's gone through a lot of repaving. A lot of the roads that used, because they're just wide farm roads, a lot of them have been repaved. I didn't do the entire trail. I got off in Oklahoma, like I said. Oklahoma still has a lot of just wide, nice dirt. Arkansas, I think the Ozarks there was one of my favorite.
It's very almost mountainous, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're going up some inclines and down and water, I think.
And they had some fun technical stuff too, where I stopped for a bit, and I was like, gotta think about how I'm gonna ride through this for a bit, because they have like rocks probably around this size that you have to navigate through and like drop offs and. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, you were talking about the crash now, and
Yes.
I keep interrupting you.
Okay. There were several.
Several.
They were all at fairly low speeds though. And this one was in West Virginia, and I was just it was raining too, and it was muddy, and I was getting a bit too cocky on curves, and I was going too fast. And I'm by myself, so I really shouldn't. And yeah, so I just went around one curve too hard, and when you're sliding out, you give it gas to compensate and go straight again, but I gave it too much gas, and I just flipped over to the side, and I went down going around 20 miles an hour, I think, and I got pinned under it.
That's not an easy fall.
Yeah.
I mean, you could really be hurt.
Yeah, my leg was hurt a bit, but I had really good protective gear. And then the second time was just stupid. I was worried that I was going to be running out of gas. And then when I came over this hill, I was too busy looking at the street to see if there was any signs of a gas station, and I didn't notice this big rock.
Wow.
It was probably like 4 or 5 inches, and I was going fast there. I was going like 30, 35. That was the first time I've actually like slid. I slid around like 20 to 25 feet with the bike, and I slid on my leg, and nothing broke, only my toothbrush fell out of my backpack.
Wow.
My camera, my computer, everything was fine.
So I forgot that when you're going on these roads, sometimes there'll be an obstacle.
Yeah.
It's not like these aren't patrolled and so forth, right? Mm-hmm. Animals run out, as you said, rocks, whatever. I mean, that's amazing. And you said you slept, I think, along the side of the road, and you never checked into a hotel, whatever. And, by the way, there's a great photograph at your story at Poker Listings where you kind of come toward the end of the journey, and anyone who's ever been to the Grand Canyon understands that that's as close to a spiritual experience as I've ever had, is gazing into the vastness and immensity of all this natural wonder and beauty.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
And it is powerful, and it really does affect you. And I defy anyone to look into that canyon and not be able to stare for minutes, if not even hours. There's something really mystical about it. You're on the bike, and you're there pretty close to the end of the journey, and you're there at the top of that, and you're overlooking. I don't want to spoil it, but obviously you made the journey. You make it here, but you're there on the top, and you're gazing into the canyon. It seems. What's going through your mind as you finish this journey, pretty much, and you're looking into the canyon?
At that point, just fucking relief.
Relief.
I was so exhausted.
I was expecting some great philosophical mantra here about
that picture
oneness
was taken
with the universe. And it's all BS. Huh?
Well, that picture was taken the day before I had to start working here.
Oh, okay.
And surprisingly too, the worst part of the trip is that it was so cold for such a long part of it.
This was in late May, right?
Yeah. The Carolinas got hit by a cold front when I was going through there, and then that was the same weekend where, what was it? Arkansas, I think, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico all got hit by rolling thunderstorms.
Wow.
And it dropped to like around 50 with rain, but with like ventilated summer gear, it gets really cold plus the wind chill. And then actually my fingers were the ones that hurt absolute most. When I got to Brad Willis's place, I couldn't even move the day before I got to his place, I stopped in North Carolina because I couldn't make it. And then that's when I stopped in a motel the first time. And when I tried to turn the key to turn off the bike, my fingers were so weak I couldn't do it.
Just frozen, right?
Yeah,
you
I had to wrist take it off. Yeah.
That's funny. You see these people that ride bicycles, even in Las Vegas where it's 100 degrees, they will have the gear on because the protective. Obviously, there's heat, and bugs, even whatever. And but it does get very cold out there, doesn't it? That's something that I don't think most people would.
People
really
underestimate the wind chill a lot.
Right. Yeah.
Even at 50, going around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, going 50 miles an hour, your fingers, if they're not covered or well protected from the wind, are going to get cold, really cold. Really
So you arrived in Las Vegas, I think, when the World Series of Poker started here. Looking back, would you do it again?
Yeah, I'm probably going to do, because the Trans-American Trail runs from Tennessee to Oregon, and I obviously didn't complete it because I didn't have time, so I'm going to do it. Actually, it's funny because I ran into the guy who created the trail in Mississippi, just randomly.
He created the trail?
Yeah. It took him years.
Is that they're hacking away through weeds, or what is the...
Just finding the roads, and then putting up the maps on GPS or selling. That's how I want to do it next time. It's called the roll charts. So basically it's just instructions. It's like 1 mile, 1.1 miles, and then take a left, and then it's on paper, and then you just roll through it.
Wow. So that's your next thing, and you've done this in, like you said, Vietnam and Cambodia, I think you mentioned. Nepal, excuse me.
Yeah.
Nepal, there's all these mountains there. How do you do it there?
It's funny how I ended up in Nepal, because I was going to India to write a story for Bluff, and it was right after World Series of Poker Europe, and I stayed in Europe for a few days with some friends, and we went to Amsterdam, and we found this Nepalese restaurant there. And that's also when I figured out, as an American, you need a visa to go to India, and I didn't know that. And then the food was absolutely delicious in this Nepalese restaurant. And then I just figured, like, I'll just go to Nepal. I could get a visa there, and I could. And that's how I ended up there. And then, yeah.
Well, Alex, I will say this. I'm not qualified to give you any advice, but I will give you some anyway. And that's this. Don't ever settle down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to settle down in some ways and have your life in certain bearings and a foundation. I think it's important. But you already have that, not in a place, but within. You have that foundation within yourself. And wherever you go, that is your foundation, isn't it, to which to expound upon and experience life. I mean, you don't have to necessarily stay in one place, and you can kind of be your own self wherever you are. I just think that's really special. And it's neat that people around you, people like you, are still around. That's pretty special. Any other last words for those that are still watching this video? And I know there's going to be a lot of them because you're a fascinating person, and everybody kind of like to be in your shoes in a way. Do you have any last advice about anybody that may be thinking about something like this?
I don't know. It's funny because I've never felt qualified to give advice. I've always been the youngest person in the crowd. I've always been the amateur. So I'm not sure. Buy warm gloves if you're going to do this.
Buy warm gloves. and to learn more, would you please mention the site and your Twitter handle, things that you should be well, you are a rock star to us. Those of us who know you, but for those who don't, would you give us a little bit of how to contact you and so forth?
Okay, I'm the Chip Bitch on Twitter.
The Chip Bitch, just like it sounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's from back in the day.
Right.
Sticking with it.
We got the story. And the websites.
Also, there's this website, advwriter.com.
ADV? Excuse me, ADV Writer. R-I-D-E-R.
Yeah, it's a website about a bunch of people who motorcycle across the planet, and they post their stories there. That's where I post mine too.
Right.
Yeah, and they're always great with advice and for everything. That's actually, I'm planning my trip down. I'm going to drive down to Costa Rica in September, so I'm planning it on there too. And I have this site, chipbitch.com.
How many sites do you have? You've got chipbitch.com, the site.
Yeah. I haven't updated it in a while though, but maybe this will motivate me to get it back up and running. It is running. It has some old stories. But
How do you have time to write when you're writing? You're doing the World Series of Poker work, which is, for most people, that's very exciting. People don't know what that is. You're here all these hours. You don't have any time for yourself,
really at all.
But you're riding a motorcycle, and then you've got this extra life. And that's pretty remarkable, Alex. Anyway, I want to thank you for coming on, sharing, all your experiences with people. It's not just that you enjoyed it on your own, but you also took the time to share it with others. That's very special. So
Yeah, I love that I could do that. That's half the fun.
half the fun. The other half is just doing it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Alex.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.